This is the DNA of the most dangerous creature in the universe.
What?
It's been buried on Earth since the 9th century.
Run!
It's not going to stop until it's taken control of this planet. It's going to kill anyone that gets in its path.
Does it have a name?
Hello everyone, and if you're listening to this shortly after the episode aired, a Happy New Year to you. It's 2019, and we're here to look at not the Christmas special of Doctor Who, but the New Year's special of Doctor Who, because apparently Christmas has been done to death, and a Christmas special means it has to be on Christmas Day, which it doesn't, but never mind. I'm not going into that today. Now, I'm here, it's me, Ant/WedgeDoc/Im over there, to talk about Resolution with my usual co-host, who is...
Brian Nugent, a Time Lord extraordinaire, kind of.
Well, you're kind of a lord of existing in time.
Yes.
So
Yes.
That's kind of, yeah. I say lord kind of because, technically you're my lord if it's in some kind of feudal system.
Jeez.
Which is how you kind of rule it anyway,
Yeah. With an iron fist, as it should be.
An iron fist and a steel chain.
Barbed steel chain. That's how I rule.
So we're here to talk about Resolution, which was the New Year special Doctor Who. I guess we could touch on a bit on whether, the Christmas/New Year argument, maybe if we go along if we've got time. But I think we'll just get into it. So I'll do the blurby stuff, and then we'll dive in.
Cool.
So, Resolution. As the new year begins, a terrifying evil from across the centuries of Earth's history is stirring. As the Doctor, Ryan, Graham, and Yaz return home, will they be able to overcome the threat to planet Earth? Yes, they will. However, before we get to that point, obviously it's written by Chris Chibnall, which, as we both know, I have kind of like mixed sort of feelings towards his episodes. There's usually elements that I think are really strong, but overall I don't think they hold together as nice.
Yeah.
And I think that doesn't really hold quite so true for this, because my issues were more in-universe issues rather than like story issues or dialogue issues or anything like that, I think.
Okay.
Until you point something out and I suddenly change my mind. But yeah, for me, because I know normally I make you go first, so being it's a new year, I thought I would with this. So for me, I actually quite like the story as a whole.
Okay.
One thing I would have quite liked, though, is if the last trailer, I know you hated it, I can tell why you don't, is I know, so the last trailer they had the whole kind of, oh, what is it thing, and then right at the end they had the Daleks saying exterminate, as the Doctor Who thing came up. And I wish they hadn't have done that.
Okay.
Because up until then, I kind of thought, well, it might not be. It might be something new, some kind of demon type thing. It could be anything.
Yeah.
And then they kind of did that, and it was kind of like showing too much in the trailer. And because they hadn't done that before, it almost felt like they were suddenly nervous about it.
Yes, that's what I felt. It felt like they had a marketing meeting and they said, "Look, we've run the numbers. I feel like we've got to do something. We've got to let people know it's a Daleks. Otherwise, I think we're going to lose ratings." That's what that felt like to me.
Yeah, and it could have been just a reaction to, because all the papers, oh, is it the Daleks and all this sort of thing. But you know what? You can just let that stuff slide. You're still getting the publicity from that.
Yeah.
The only reason to do this is, as you say, it kind of feels like bolstering the defences and getting your big guns out. Such as they are, or such as they were in this episode. But yeah, I quite liked the whole kind of battle back from centuries ago, and the whole Justice League film thing of taking something and splitting it off into three pieces. And I did kind of think, wow, this is literally kind of like, it's like I said to Amy, I said, is it Steppenwolf? Are they buried a mother box?
To be honest, that whole bit, I was sitting there thinking, obviously we're coming to my thoughts, but I was thinking, isn't this the prologue bit that Wonder Woman kind of says, where like all the armies of the world come together and it's split into three? And then I thought, hang on a minute, didn't they say this at the beginning of Lord of the Rings? All the armies of men and elves came together for a great, it just, yeah. Sorry, you continue.
Yeah. So no, and and the thing that amused me most with that though, you kind of had the thing of them taking the three pieces and burying them, and you got Siberia, and you got the desert, and then it's the guy who was 2 minutes down the road from where the battle was. He's the one who gets ambushed and killed. I kind of thought that's not right. That makes no sense. Also, I always get annoyed with these secret orders that do this. Because the whole point is you don't want these things to be found, right?
Yeah.
So why do you leave someone there guarding it forever with a fucking ancient sword? It annoyed me about in Indiana Jones and Last Crusade as well. It's exactly the same thing.
But at least, I know we're kind of going around. I can see it's lasting longer than half an hour. But at least with Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, like the reason is, especially if you read the novelization, one of the reasons why the knight stayed behind to guard the Grail was because he knew that if he left, he would die because he would age rapidly because it was a Grail that was that place was keeping him alive.
Yeah, so he's been a bit of a twat.
Yeah, but also it was just him. He was effectively immortal, and
that's true because it was the same guy, wasn't it?
It was the same guy.
Yeah.
The thing with this one, which I found bizarre, was that so they all took him to like the ends of the earth,
or Sheffield.
Yeah, 3 corners of the earth, and then when it starts to sort of reactivate, it kind of switches to those places again. And you've got someone just sitting there with a little tent behind them with the same weapon, and I'm kind of like, that's just nonsense. At least to me, that was a real wasted. That whole thing was a wasted opportunity because when in Last Crusade, to use that same analogy, when Indy's trying to find the Grail, he's kind of to beat the Nazis, but also at the same time you had the Brotherhood of the Cruciform Sword who were set up to stop people from finding the Grail.
Yeah.
And they were active participants in the movie because they were at every turn they were trying to kind of stop them. Whereas in this one, they made such a big deal, like the 2 archaeologists made such a big deal about the order of the custodians.
Yeah.
And it's like, the order of custodians, and he just brought out this big book, there's no explanation as to where this book come from. But
typical though.
It was like, the order of custodians, and they there was this great battle and blah blah blah, and they hid everything to the corners of the earth, so no one would be able to do it again. Okay, there's a couple of things with that. To begin with, if you're trying to hide some kind of secret enemy, why would you write it down in the book telling people that's what you've done?
Yeah.
Right? So that's thing number one. Thing number two is I genuinely believed that order of custodians was still going to be around and they were going to come into and they were going to play a big part in the episode.
Yeah, I did as well.
And they would all be high tech now because obviously time's moved on. But again, for me, that was style over substance. It was such a wasted opportunity, I thought. Great idea, done hundreds of times, but it was just wasted.
Yeah, there's quite a lot of that in this. To be fair, I mean, I'm coming out and I'm being super and stuff, but while I was watching it, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the whole episode all the way through. I just want to keep reiterating that because most of the things I'm going to say, I'm going to sound like I didn't. And I kind of was thinking the other day about this before watching the episode, and I was kind of thinking, am I coming across really negative in these episodes, and am I becoming one of those people who is watching Doctor Who but not enjoying it and just watching it to rant about it? And I'm not because I enjoy watching it still. So I just want to get that out, and if I'm giving that impression that I'm kind of like really secretly loathing the series and stuff and hating on it, I'm not. So I just want to get that out, kind of thing. But yeah, I mean, you're right. I thought they were going to come back and make a bigger appearance. I mean, speaking of jumping ahead a bit, but speaking of secret organisations, what are your thoughts on the unit or lack thereof scene?
So let's just part that for a second. So overall, you enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Right. So my thoughts on it was that were conflicted because overall I enjoyed it. in some ways it did feel epic enough for a special. In other ways it didn't. Again, I feel it may perhaps would have benefited it being a two-part if it was in the regular kind of rotation. But I did enjoy it. It's probably one of my more favourite ones. There was some great stuff in it. I want to give a big up to I've forgotten her name now, who was the archaeologist who got taken over by the Dalek.
Bear with me 1 second. I've got it up here. Charlotte Ritchie, who played Lynn.
I thought she was great. I thought she did a great job. And I almost kind of, I know it sounds a bit kind of, I don't want to see a Dalek, but I almost wish they'd kind of carried it on a little bit more, because there was a real nice Master Doctor kind of dynamic going on with them when they had that, when she was kind of talking to her over the mic and then they did the hologram thing.
Yeah.
It was quite a nice, I quite liked it. It was quite a nice dynamic going on. And
yeah, she did a proper creepy face as well after she killed that police woman.
Yeah.
And nicked the car. Yeah. It was like, wow, yeah, you can do evil, love.
yeah, you can do evil till the cows come home. And then there was quite a nice analogy to when she goes into the sort of the workshopy place or whatever and kills the guy. And then she kind of effectively makes her Dalek suit in a similar, and it's a similar scene to when the Doctor makes her sonic screwdriver.
Yeah, it's a proper parallel, isn't it?
Yeah. So I thought that was really, so I almost kind of wanted her to kind of stay Dalek-y. I don't quite know, but at the same time, I didn't necessarily want her running around like encased in metal. Do you know what I mean? But I don't know. I quite liked it. However, once she got free and she became, and the full-on Dalek came out, I thought some of that stuff was really good. You know, when he took on the soldiers and stuff like that, I thought it was proper, and it was quite nice from a point of view of, which harkened back to was it just called Dalek?
Yeah.
So, where it goes to show how dangerous one Dalek can be.
Mm. And this is one Dalek who has just had to basically make itself a tank out of scrap. It's basically the A-team of Daleks.
Yeah. And I know there's people going, oh, well, how would it have done that? I'm not really so worried about all that. I quite like the idea that it was some special kind of SAS-style Dalek scout that's a little bit further up the pecking order in terms of like the technology and stuff. So I quite liked all of that. My problem when I then came out of, whilst I was watching the episode, there was just so many things that kind of jumped out to me where I was just like, why have you done that?
Mm.
That just to me, and again, like you, I don't want to come across as I'm hating on the whole thing, the whole series, blah, blah. But at the same time, we're here to review these episodes, and I got to call things as I see them. Even if I've enjoyed something, I can still enjoy something which is full of faults. And I did think this had a lot of faults in it. And like I said, not so much faults, but wasted opportunities. And I definitely think the Custodians was a wasted opportunity. Just the word, just the phrase, Order of Custodians, I'm all over that. They could have been a whole new kind of, we'll come onto the unit, but let's just say they have completely shelved unit. We'll come on to that. All the Custodians could have been a whole new thing that Chibnall was bringing in to almost like replace the unit.
Mm. I've got a feeling that MDZ company, I think they'll be popping their heads back up if they're going around collecting alien technology.
Yeah, but I don't
like Chibnall's Torchwood, I suppose.
Yeah, but I don't know about that because he's what he's kind of shown is that he kind of will just throw away concepts. That's throw away sounds a bit harsh, but he won't return to them. Whereas I feel if that had been one of the other showrunners, that might have been something you might think, oh, I wonder what he's going to do with that. But I don't necessarily know if he'll come back to that. I think that was just the means to an end for that episode.
Yeah, maybe.
Do you know what I mean? Like, I need somehow for the Daleks to be able to get its weapons back. Right, how about there's a company that's buying up all this, do you know what I mean, all this tech and stuff. Yeah, that will work. That more what it feels like to me, rather than him sort of doing an overarching, then in the next season they can come back into it.
Yeah.
But I felt, all the Custodians was wasted.
I think for me, the B plot in this was like Ryan and his dad. And I think for me, that didn't work for me at all. And I would have much rather have seen some Custodian stuff than that.
for me, it didn't. So on the plus side, there was some good stuff in there.
Oh, there was some lovely. Don't get me wrong. There was some lovely dialogue and some lovely acting.
Some lovely acting and all that sort of stuff, and real kind of heartfelt stuff. And I thought the visual at the end with him trying to reach for his dad and whatever, I thought, yeah, it was really good. However, if you're going to give me the option of having those scenes or having a more expanded story about the custodians and bringing in some of those characters, I know what I want.
Yeah, and the thing for me as well is that I always think the specials should be standalone. And bringing Ryan's dad into it very much ties it as being the last episode of the season. This felt like a season finale rather than a New Year special.
Yeah.
Because of that, if that hadn't have been in there, they could, you could have done that. You could have opened next season with Ryan's dad, and had, you could have spent more time on it because you would have had the time because you wouldn't have been doing the epic stuff. And for me, that would have worked better then. But as you say, there was some really nice stuff in there with it, and at least this time, and we mentioned the book being brought out of the blue, but at least this time it's kind of like he was trying to sell that microwave oven, which was then, critical to the resolution.
Yeah,
sort of
I mean,
thing.
could you?
I don't know how it was.
And I had to laugh. I mean, I did have to laugh. I mean, and go with it is the best way. Laugh, go with it. Add a glass of whiskey with it. But it was like the minute they went to the cafe and you had the microwave oven, I thought, why have you got a microwave oven when you've come to see your son? It made no sense. And then when he was kind of, and then had to get in the whole kind of like, yeah, and then maybe I'll go back to engineering. And I was like, okay, so basically you want the audience to know that he's got engineering skills and that oven's going to play some sort of role later on.
Yeah.
And I just had to go with it. And I didn't have a problem with it in one respect because I've seen that's been done plenty of times in Doctor Who, so I didn't have a problem with it as such. But no, I just didn't think you needed to have that whole storyline with his dad, good as it was, didn't need to be in that episode.
Mm. Yeah, that was all my take on it.
There was more weight to be had by bringing in all the custodians because, in my mind, he's had 10 episodes to build up all those companions.
Yeah.
And then you've got the special where we already know the companions, so boom, here we go. Here's a big thing they've got to deal with. And weirdly, the person I feel I know the least is the Doctor.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, speaking of the Doctor, you're right. We still haven't seen her Doctor yet, in some ways.
Mm.
We haven't seen. We had a little bit of. I thought this would be a real good opportunity, especially with it being a Dalek, a real good opportunity for Chibnall to give her one of those proper Doctor speeches and angry Doctor moments, sort of thing. And you could see it bubbling under and nearly being there when she had the scene where, like you say, with the hologram, when she was talking to the hologram of Lynn / Dalek. Yeah. But then, just at the end, just when it was getting to that point where it could have been, and by the way, I'm going to put you down. It's like, oh, I kept you talking. And for me, that was just an anti-climax to that. Because you could have had that moment of actually her just, breaking through the block and going to the Dalek without that kind of forced comedy moment. And you could have kept that serious tone up and had the Doctor actually showing, yeah, this is the Doctor now, kind of thing.
Yeah. The use of humour in this season, but this episode in particular, is handled not well.
Mm.
And the humour comes at parts where you kind of you lose the drama element. So that sequence was brilliant, and then you had that bit of humour, and it just sort of took away from it.
Yeah, and it was the same with the bit where she's worrying about what to do, and she's basically phoning unit, and then you have that comedy skit there.
Oh,
as well.
Don't even start me on that one. And then there was the other bit where they were like, it's drawing all the power, even internet cut to family.
Yeah.
What are we gonna do now? Talk.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that Doctor Who shouldn't have humour in it, because obviously it has humour in it, but there's a way to handle it and a place to have it.
Yeah.
And also, for me, and yes, I know the 50th episode, or whatever it was, 50th anniversary episode, sorry, to a certain extent, undid some of that. But this is the race that the Time Lords went to war with. This is a race where where the Doctor had to, like, wipe out her own race.
Mm.
Now, okay, yes, you know, that's been rejigged or whatever, but still, you know, and, you know, I just didn't feel it.
Mm.
When you look at, so my thing was, when you look at Tennant, when you look at all of them, when they've come into contact with a Dalek for the first time, there's a rage there.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? There's like no, I'm not, you know, this thing needs to die. And it's almost like you see the Doctor in a completely different light. And as a companion, you can see the companions going like, what the hell's going on?
Yeah, it's like that. I mean, to be fair, it was done best in, as I said earlier, in Dalek, where you got Christopher Eccleston and he's literally pointing the gun at Rose because she's defending the Dalek, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And you see that she's like, you need to get out of the way, it's a killer, and she's like, he's not the one pointing the gun at me.
Yeah.
And that brings him back down, and you get, you know, David Tennant did Rage superbly, kind of thing, and you always saw that bubbling under, even when he was joking with the Daleks, kind of thing, like, you know, and just kind of trying to get them off guard. You always saw that, you know, that kind of like, what are you doing here? Sort of, you know, why are you still around, sort of thing. And Matt Smith did it well as well. His was more of kind of a sad anger.
Mm.
And then Capaldi was, well, he was Capaldi, yeah. And as I say, I kind of could see it. There were moments when I could see that in Jodie Whittaker, just waiting to come out, but it was just always then undermined by something.
Yeah, humour, normally.
Well, yeah, I mean, in inverted commas.
Yeah. You know, which was, as I said, which was a shame, because I actually feel that there was, the way they did the Dalek and all, it was really well done, and yeah, there was a lot of stuff to like in it, in that episode. And weirdly, the more distance I put between it, the more I kind of remember the stuff that I liked about it, that I thought actually worked and stuff. But there was just so many bits where I was just like, why have you done that? I just don't like the unit stuff. It just made, there was a chance for you to make it a much bigger global threat if you wanted to do that. Oh, that's the other thing. Sounds like I'm just raging now. That was my biggest thing. So here's my biggest thing, was when the whole Dalek plan was to get a signal to its fleet.
Mm-hmm.
Hasn't the Dalek fleet been destroyed like ages ago?
Yeah, but it didn't know that.
Well, exactly.
In my right, this is the thing. The thing that my biggest issue relates to that, and it's because this was supposed to be one of the first Daleks to leave Skaro, right?
Yeah.
So it would have no idea about the Time Lords. It would know of a Doctor, because there was one there at their creation. But it would have no idea of Time Lords, wouldn't know what a TARDIS was, wouldn't have the ability to interfere with a TARDIS, and yet it could do all those things. Also, you don't send your best, most elite commando units off first. You test the waters first. You know, and for me, it was kind of like, and it is a massive nerd thing in me, because I mean, you know, I've got like I've got to say book in inverted commas, but I've got a document that's like 200 pages long on Daleks that I put together and trying to rationalize things together and put some kind of relevant thing. So a lot of my opinions is from the bias of that point of view.
Yeah.
And trying to rationalize it, because you can always say, yeah, but the Time War reset all that. Yeah, that's great, but if the Time War reset all that, then none of the Doctor's adventures would have happened. So the Doctor wouldn't remember any of the Daleks. So you're getting that kind of cyclical argument, you know, of what actually happened. So I try and see, like, if you're saying this is one of the first Daleks leaving, it wouldn't know. The first Daleks leaving, we've seen they were reliant on having energy beamed to their backs, you know, from spaceships because you took out the spaceship and they died.
Yeah.
So I didn't mind if it had been like a Time War scout, and she said, in the Time War these guys were like the SAS essentially. I could have bought that, or even like this is the new Dalek fleet from the whatever 15th or 232nd, whatever were on Dalek Empire. Then fair enough, I could buy that. But this was like explicitly said to be one of the first who ever left Skaro.
Yeah.
That said, I loved how the Dalek creature looked. It was much better than like what we've seen before in the reboot. In fact, to be fair, it was much better than what we've seen before in Doctor Who ever. It was a beautiful creature. It's the wrong word, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
It just looked. It looked like to me a Dalek should look, other than it was a bit big because I don't know how the Fubar is supposed to fit inside a casing. But other than its size, it was a magnificent creature.
Yeah.
And the bit where it was on her back and it kind of plugged into her brain and stuff, that was all. Again, it kind of felt a bit anachronistic to me, but it was cool, and it was well done. And as you say, her playing that role and doing that as well was magnificent.
Yeah.
The Junkyard Dalek, so the actual when it got its casing, I really liked because it did look like, it looked like the Dalek had just made itself from what it remembered it should be. Bearing in mind it's been cut into 3 pieces.
Yeah.
And buried for centuries. It's kind of like this kind of almost memory of what it should look like. And it looked like every single child's drawing of a Dalek you've ever seen.
Yeah.
It's like the sense globes were the wrong size. There's 3 of them instead of 4. It was kind of like tapered and then vertical. It was brilliant. It was like the comedy skit Dalek / the kids drawing Dalek all rolled into one. The one thing I didn't like was the rocket launchers.
What was that about?
And it was purely because, right, you've already got an extermination ray, which is clearly enough to take out everything.
More than capable.
More than capable. But then you're filling half of your casing with these. I mean, there wasn't even room for them to stay. They might have fired. There was not enough room for them for a start.
I know.
And you got these basically little fat boys coming out. And the explosions looked amazing when the army turned up and stuff, which could have been unit. I mean, I've seen arguments that the whole point was that Chibnall didn't want to have unit, and it was like a little joke skit to kind of explain why unit don't always turn up to save the day. But you don't need to do that. Unit don't always turn up to save the day because they're not omniscient.
Yeah.
Unless they're told about a threat, which is what the Doctor was trying to do, they wouldn't have known about that single Dalek that's just materialised under Sheffield, And then you have an army turning up anyway. That could easily have been unit.
Which made no sense, because what I think is, it's kind of like when they said, when you had that comedy sketch, I use the term lightly, of units being shut down or whatever, and then like you say, the army rocks up anyway. Do you not think that they probably would have gone? Maybe we should. Do you know what I mean? That they would have called unit. They would have called Kate. It just and I thought as well, like even the reasoning is like, oh well, when's the last time we had an invasion and stuff? It's like, come on.
Yeah.
And also
and the whole kind of like budget cuts thing.
Yeah, and also as well, like seriously, like I get the fact that this is obviously a soft reboot, but you mean to tell me none of these people have never seen a Dalek before?
Mm.
So when the soldiers walk, when the soldiers rock up and and the Dalek kind of threatens them, and he's like, "Is that thing talking to me?" It's just like.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of didn't mind that too much, but only because that's what always happens in Doctor Who. And I mean, they even referenced it in like 1987. Remember the Daleks? It was like Ace was going, "Well, I remember about Daleks in London. Like, I'd learned about it in school." And then the Doctor goes, "Oh, do you remember the Loch Ness monster in the Thames?" And goes through a few other sort of alien invasions. And he's like, the human race has got this remarkable capacity for self-deception, kind of thing.
I get that.
But yeah, I mean, this is
the
army, and the army has had interactions with Daleks before. But then I suppose it depends. If it is literally just a training unit who've been shunted out, it's neat to know, isn't it?
Yeah, I feel like you're giving them a lot of leeway because I know that. In the course of this New Who, the amount of times that Earth has been effed over by some alien, by Daleks, by cyber people, a couple of times by like Cybermen, the whole Earth been moved to the other part of the galaxy, and yet these things happen in this, and people are surprised and shocked, and that's what I mean. I get the fact of wanting to do a soft reboot, but I think for me, it kind of takes me out of it because I've been watching it since it's come back. I'm not even talking about all the Who before. I'm talking about the Who through Christopher Eccleston. All this stuff has happened.
I mean, the thing that, because there was a line in Victory of the Daleks, which was Matt Smith's first season, and it's like, the Doctor says, oh, it's a Dalek. You know, you can't trust it's a Dalek. And Amy's like, what? And the Doctor's like, Stephen Moffat did a clever thing where he had the Doctor kind of basically say, oh, time's out of joint, kind of thing, because of the actions that had happened before, because of the cracks in the universe, things aren't right, sort of thing.
Yeah.
And that kind of like was fine. But then, as you say, since then, you've had however many more Dalek stories, like, you know, and stuff. And yeah, and it is hard to kind of rationalize that. But I kind of do find myself I'm more willing to forgive that than the fact that, to me, this Dalek shouldn't have been one of the first Daleks, which is it's the most ridiculous argument you could possibly have, you know.
Well, I feel that, as I said, you know, I had to spend precious time telling myself to just go with it.
Just roll with it.
To roll with it. And I feel, and that's what I mean by, that's why I can't kind of rave about the episode, because I feel if they could have ironed those little things out, I would have enjoyed it. It would have been I would have enjoyed it. I did enjoy it, but it would have been a much smoother ride for me than what I got. And what I got was a bumpy ride.
Yeah. I mean, I'll be honest. I will watch this again. There's not many of the Christmas specials I would watch again. But this one I would. You know, if it came on telly again, or if I had it on DVD, I would actually think, you know what, I fancy watching that.
Yeah.
And it is. I'm actually viewing it, as I said before, as the series finale.
Rather than special.
Rather than the special.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, I suppose let's get onto that a little bit, I suppose. But I don't understand this argument of they couldn't do it at Christmas on Christmas Day because they've done Christmas to death. You don't have to set a Christmas special on Christmas Day. You know, or even at Christmas time. It's a Christmas special is just a special that is on at Christmas. You know.
Well, even the fact that they said it on New Year's Day, and then it was like there was literally about 3 or 4 lines that it was New Year's Day, but you could have taken those out. It could have been any time of the year.
Yeah, absolutely. It was just that bit at the beginning, really, wasn't it? Oh, look, here's our 19th New Year's Day.
Yeah.
Where should we go next? And then them saying, "Oh, look, I've asked you to come into work on New Year's Day because I fancy you."
Yeah.
Because that's how things work. But yeah, as you say, it did feel, other than those moments at the beginning, it could have been. I mean, it was Britain, overcast. Could have been any time. could have been summer. But yeah, and looking at it from in my head, if I look at it as a season finale, I enjoyed it.
Yes.
And those bits with Ryan, in that sense, kind of belong there with Ryan and his dad. Although, I mean, I still think I haven't really touched on it too much yet, but I still don't quite get how quickly Ryan forgave his dad.
I really struggled with that because, you know, they'd made such a big deal throughout this series of what a waste of space his dad was, that didn't even turn up to like his mum's funeral, didn't turn up to his nan's funeral, and generally and the fact that his nan had to raise him and all this sort of stuff. So, you know, in terms of kind of parenting, shit. And then he kind of rocks up with a microwave. So when you really think it through, he had one kind of really heartfelt scene with him at the beginning where he basically kind of, you know, where he was saying, "What do you want me to say?" You know.
Yeah. And Ryan tells him what he wants him to say, and he just, I mean, he couldn't say it.
Yeah.
Start.
And he just said, you know, I was weak, I ran, whatever. But then the scene that made me start to warm to him, which is a scene he has with Graham, Ryan has no part of.
Yeah.
So from the audience point of view, we can start to warm to the guy because we're kind of like, when he sort of says, you know, why didn't you come to, like, you know, your nan's, you know, not, and I quite liked what Graham said, is like, why didn't you come to your mum's funeral? Not for me, not for Ryan, but for yourself.
Yeah.
You know, and then he kind of says why and all the rest of it. You know, certainly as someone who, from my perspective, and I know what it was like at mum's funeral, and it's a horrible. It's just tough. And there's a part of me where, like, if I could not have gone, I probably wouldn't have gone.
Yeah.
You know? So I can get that.
Because it makes it real, doesn't it? It makes it real.
Yeah. But Ryan never saw any of that.
No.
And then his next exposure to it is when they're rocking up with the TARDIS, and he's kind of like, "Come on, Dad, you know, you can come as well. I'll explain on the way." And I was like, "But why would you do that? Why would you not just go? I'm now gonna I'm going. You do what you want, but I'm going." You know, and even that, and even accepting that, and then they go along, and obviously he helps to save the day. Fair enough. And everyone's like, "Oh yeah, I'm starting to like Ryan's dad." I'm like, all he's doing is being useful. That's not negating the shit he's done for the past however many years.
Yeah, 19 years or however older.
And I think when and then Ryan saves him, he says he loves him and all that. Fair enough. But I think at the end, where it's kind of like, so you're just gonna go off with them now? Yeah, I am. Okay, call me when you get back. Right. But you would think that he would
want to spend a bit of time reconnecting.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, in my book, it would be that there's still issues, but they're going to sort of try and sort it a little bit now.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Yeah, as I say, it's difficult because with the like you said, that scene with and the actor was really. I don't know if he was badly cast or really well cast, because the actor seemed like such a nice person, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And but the way the character has certainly been portrayed up until you see him. I mean, I guess the argument is, you've already had one side of the story and all that, but even from his simple actions of not being there for Ryan at all throughout his life, as a dad, I couldn't even imagine that,
Yeah.
And then for him to suddenly rock up and almost make himself the victim. It's kind of like, really? And I kind of wish it had been someone who didn't come over so nice as a person, as an actor, who was cast the role. Yeah. Because he was that. I would watch. I don't know. I can't remember the guy's name. Let's find out while we're here. Aaron, wasn't it? So Daniel Adegboyega. He was fantastic.
Yeah.
And I did find myself starting to feel a bit of sympathy for him, until I thought, hang on a minute, you abandoned everyone. And then at the end, I just kind of thought, why is Ryan forgiving him? Other than, he thinks he's about to die, I suppose. And it's one of those heat of the moment things so you can clear the air kind of thing, But it just didn't sit right. And even if our view of him was coloured through Ryan's lenses, and Ryan was over angry, over emotional about it, that's all we've got to go on.
Yeah.
So even if that perception isn't actually correct, we need more time to see that it's not correct.
Yeah.
And that's why I kind of felt this would have been nicer in a smaller scale episode in season 2, because you could have spent a lot more time on it. You could have even spent a couple of episodes where you get to the point of, okay, Dad, I'm willing to give you a bit of a chance. I'll see you next time I'm in town, sort of thing.
Yeah.
And have a few kind of like, almost like Rose's mum kind of bits through something. And for me, that would have been better. It just felt a bit rushed, that whole resolution. And as you say, I'm just going to wander off into time and space now. See you later, dude. After I've just told you I forgive you. And I'd say, I mean, none of these things that I'm complaining about mean I didn't enjoy the episode. I don't enjoy Doctor Who. I still do. And I will be watching the next season. If I didn't enjoy it enough, I just wouldn't watch the next season. I've got 50 odd years of Doctor Who to go back on and watch if I want to. I can try it again in a couple of years if it's still going, if I need to. but I am still enjoying it, so I will still be watching it. And I do think there's a lot of scope for Jodie Whittaker to actually be an amazing Doctor.
Yeah.
It's just a shame she's not been given the opportunity for the most part.
Yeah. I 100% agree with you. I will watch the next season, but I do feel that in this kind of like hiatus, whatever they're calling it, they need to have a real serious look at what they want to do going forward.
Yeah.
I would like to see them drop the idea of every episode standalone. I don't necessarily want them to just do exactly what everyone else has done. I'm not saying that it has to have a season-long arc, but I don't feel like it's... Although, to be fair, the first episode was a kind of two-part, wasn't it?
Sort of, yeah.
Sort of. But I feel that there were quite a few episodes in this season which really, I feel, would have benefited being 2 episodes, and I feel that they were rushed and crammed in. I imagine how much more powerful this episode would have been if this ended with the Dalek getting a signal out and the Doctor kind of saying, fool you because there's no fleet there anymore, it's all gone and blah, blah, and then suddenly there's like a bleeping coming back and then there's a cutaway shot.
A fleet turns up.
And there's a massive fleet that's coming to Earth. And it's like, to be continued. It's just like that. That's how you do it.
Yeah.
Made that bad boy 2-part. Then you got more time to explore like Ryan's relationship with his dad, more time for all the custodians. And I feel that was my overall takeaway this season, is that there were some really interesting ideas that kind of never really got cut short. Yeah, they were just cut short, never really fully developed because it's everything's got to be standalone, everything's got to be rinse and repeat, and I thought it was to its detriment. But there was still stuff in there that I did really enjoy overall this season and this special episode. So I don't want, again, like you, I don't want people just going around going, oh, you just hated the whole thing. I didn't. But I got cool things as I see them.
Yeah, absolutely. And the whole point of doing something like this, as you said earlier, is to pull up the strings a bit and see what happens.
Yeah.
So so that is part of being an inverted commas critic. But I would never, I would never really do this kind of thing for something that I genuinely didn't like that much, because why do that to myself? Why spend time thinking about something that I feel that negatively about? As I say, I enjoyed the series. I enjoyed this episode, but there were a lot of threads to pull at.
Yes.
Less
a good way to put it.
Less so than in almost any other previous season, I would say.
Yeah.
Sorry, more so than in any previous season, not less so. that was backwards. But yeah, I would have. I really missed Doctor Who being on Christmas Day though. And
even though I didn't normally watch it, I don't always normally watch it on Christmas Day, but I would normally then watch it on Boxing Day. So yeah, it felt weird.
Yeah, it really did. And it's funny because you think about how many years we had without Doctor Who at Christmas, and then so we've had it for 12 years, I guess, and then to not have one on that next year, it's like, wow, yeah, that just felt wrong to me.
Yeah.
Which just shows how much of a tradition it had become. So I mean, to this story's credit, actually, Cara stayed awake through it all. Bearing in mind it was on 7 till 8, and her bedtime's normally about 6:30ish. She stayed awake through it all, and then today when I got home, she wanted to watch the Doctor Who with a Dalek in it. So there was good to it from the eyes of a 4-year-old. So job done. Frankly, it's a family show.
Yeah.
So I think for me, have you got anything else there? I think that's probably a good place to end it on.
No, I think that's a good place to round up on.
So once again, everyone, thanks for listening. Do let us know if you agree or disagree with any or all of what we've said. Let us know your thoughts on the treatment of UNIT and whether you think it worked as a throwaway aside and a bit of a Brexit dig or not. Let us know if you completely agree with us. You can find us at the usual places. So email, that's thegeeks@geeksyndicate.co.uk. You can find us at geeksyndicate.co.uk, and indeed at Geek Syndicate in most places. So Twitter, Instagram, Pinterest, all the usually type places. You can find me on Twitter at WedgeDoc. And yes, until next time, which for Doctor Who will probably not be till 2020 now, so you won't have to listen to me till then if you don't wish to. It's goodbye, but I'm sure we'll be back with some other review shows and stuff in between anyway. Yes. And you can find both myself and Barry and the new comics podcast that we've got coming out sort of roughly monthly-ish at the moment, which is Birds of Geek. So yeah, do join us for that. So just to say again, Happy New Year, and we will see you again.
Happy New Year, all, and we will see you soon.
Cheerio.
Bye.